everyone, I'm going to be doing an Italy review. The big thing about Europe is like, if this goes for pretty much anywhere, if you see people outside of a restaurant trying to get you to come in, don't go in. Or if like there's a restaurant with like a lot of pictures on the menu, don't go in. If there's a restaurant with like a huge menu, like ginormous, ridiculously large menu, don't go there. I will say that doesn't always apply. We actually asked one of our tour guides about this, and she was like, the thing is like there's so many restaurants all in a row. Like there's areas of Rome, especially the touristy areas, that are just rows and streets and blocks of restaurants. And the thing is like, how are you going to get anyone to go into your restaurant if you don't let them know that it's there? So some of it is actually advertising, but there are some restaurants that are literally just like, it's American Italian food. It's not actual Italian food. It's Italian food that Americans eat, so it's not actually like, you're not getting that experience. So I will say some of those restaurants were like that. If you look in there and it looks like a good enough restaurant and there's a lot of people sitting there and they look happy enough and it's not like a sketchy menu, if it's not overly sketchy but people are still out there trying to advertise to you, it's probably fine. My mom was really big on not going to like tourist trap areas. She really wanted to get authentic Italian food, but it's really hard to do that when you're in like the heart of Rome, because it's meant for tourists. Like Italy's biggest source of income as a country is tourism, as far as I know. Trying to get to like a residential area and eating there is very difficult, especially if you don't have a guide. We did for some of our food tours in Rome, so that made it a little bit easier for us to eat like actual Italian food and not just like bland American food. I will say though, like that's something that I absolutely hated, was how like people would try to get you to come into those restaurants. I hated it. I know sometimes, like I just said, it was like necessary for some of those restaurants to get you to like go in at all, but it annoyed me so much. Like I just need to be able to walk down the street without constantly being yelled at. And two things along with that. First of all, gelato. My mom was also really big on finding authentic gelato, and she's read a couple articles that were like, if the gelato's all piled up, it's not going to be real gelato. Again, that's not true. It's just like a different type of gelato, like it's more airy. We asked our tour guide about that. I don't think it makes that big of a difference, if I'm being honest. When I was on the plane and I was thinking like, Italian gelato is probably just like regular ice cream. Like people hype it up so much, like it's just probably not that different. I was wrong. I was really wrong. It does live up to the hype. It's like, a gelato is incredible. We had it every single night except for like 2 that we were there, I think. Like it was really good. Yeah, no notes. Incredible. The other thing along with that is that there were street vendors everywhere. I hated them. Sometimes, like also they were all selling the same thing. It's one thing in like Florence where they had the market and that's like an established thing, but even like on like every single street there was constantly people trying to sell you something, and I could not stand it. It was so annoying. Like little toys or like fans or umbrellas, even like water, which cold water was kind of hard to come by, but either way, like it was, again, like I couldn't walk down the street without feeling like I was being harassed, because there was constantly people trying to sell you anything and I couldn't handle it. It was too much. The only thing I ended up getting was that bag. I don't know if it was real leather or fake leather, and I really don't care. I would honestly rather it be fake leather, because A, you kind of can't tell the difference, and B, leather freaks me out. What do you mean this is the skin of an animal? Like that's weird to me. I would say like, if you're going to a foreign country and the language isn't English, then do try to learn some Italian, or like some of those phrases of that language, because like in Italy, for example, a lot of people, like English is taught in a lot of like schools nowadays, but you can't just go in there expecting everyone to know English. Like it's usually just the people that are working with the tourists. It's normally just people that are in the travel industry that like can fluently speak English no problem, because it's not their like home language, it's not their established language, it's just a secondary language. Definitely learn some basic Italian like phrases like hello, goodbye, thank you, please, like that sort of thing. Like learn how to pronounce the names of popular dishes, popular gelato flavors. Like it's really not that difficult to do that. And the plane ride there for me was like eight or 9 hours, so I had plenty of time. Like it doesn't take that much effort to just learn a couple phrases. Like just do it. Let's go to the plane rides, because I have a couple things to say about the plane rides. The way there was a baby, like maybe 1 year old, crying pretty much the whole time. Like from hour 2 till the end, tears the whole time. I wasn't even sitting near this baby, and it was making me insane. And I have very little patience, so a baby like crying, like first of all, like someone help that child, okay? Like you're not crying for 8 hours straight if something's not wrong. Do something to help that child. Like I actually, like, that's crazy to me. Like, I slept pretty much, so our flight there left at like 10:45 p.m. Eastern time. So I slept on the plane. That was like something that I like planned for. Like I had woken up early, so made myself be super active all day, like stayed awake all day. I didn't take any meds to go to sleep, like just in case, because sometimes they don't work. So I just like I went like an hour on the plane without sleeping, and then I put in my headphones and I pretty much slept. I did wake up multiple times, but it wasn't like the end of the world. Like I did get a pretty good amount of sleep. And then of course the second plane ride was just a complete disaster that I already talked about in a different video. But so we ended up landing at like 4 p.m. in Milan the next day. The way back, we left at 10:30 a.m. ish, so I didn't want to sleep in the plane. I did end up taking like a nap, but it was only like an hour and a half. I feel like our plane, I don't even feel like, I know for a fact that our plane ride back was longer because it was just one flight instead of the two, like the way there. My hair distracted me. I thought it was a person. It went on forever. I didn't download any shows or anything. I also didn't prepare. So if you know you've got a long flight, do something to get you occupied. Because my mom handed me a book, and she was like, see if you can read it, because I haven't been able to. And it was the most boring book I've ever read in my life. I can't even lie. Like, it was so bad. It's my cousin. The plane rides are bad, guys. Like, when they say don't sleep on the plane, they mean that. I stayed up last night until like 10 p.m. and then I was like, okay. Because we landed yesterday back in the US around 2:20. And I got back home like 3:45ish, and I forced myself to stay awake. I wanted to stay awake until midnight, so it was 24 hours, but I just didn't feel like it. And now I'm tired, and like I couldn't. I woke up this morning at like 3 a.m. Okay, sorry, I had to relocate. So back to Italy. So I woke up this morning at like 3 a.m. and then I was able to get myself to go back to sleep. Woke up again around 5 a.m. Couldn't sleep for a couple hours, but I'm making myself stay awake all day today, and then I'll go to bed. I'll like stay up a little bit later tonight, and then I'll go to bed. I'll try to wake up early and like go skate. But on the plane ride back, there was this child. He was sitting directly behind me. He couldn't be more than 2 years old. His parents brought nothing for him to do. He was just sitting there with his pacifier the whole entire time. So you can imagine he was messing with the tray table, kicking the seat, constantly making noise. Like, oh my god, like I was literally about to lose my patience. My dad actually stood up and like looked behind, but like oh my gosh, this child was making me insane. And then he spilled like his meal, and like peas rolled like under my seat. I was like, oh, perfect, like great. I don't have the patience for children sometimes. Like I really just like cannot with children. So as for like pickpockets, that was the most problems with that was in Florence and Rome. I personally didn't experience anything like that, but I heard a bunch of stories like of people like in elevators like, oh yeah, like this and that. So definitely make sure, like I had a crossbody like fanny pack bag type of thing. I would definitely recommend bringing that. If you're a woman, like especially a young woman, don't go anywhere like alone, especially at night. Like
just be very aware of your surroundings at all times, for sure. Like, it's definitely not like a city of crime, but it's just like little things. Like, we have to be aware of these things in America as well. Like, it's just men being creepy. The whole thing about air conditioning in Italy or like overseas, like there was a significant, like in restaurants and a lot of shops, there was especially like historical places as well, there was a lack of air conditioning. Like, we had handheld fans and that helped a lot, but hotels will generally have air conditioning, especially the nicer ones, but there is a general lack. Yeah. And ice is hard to come by. Like, at restaurants you have to specifically ask for it, and sometimes they don't have it. Hotels usually have ice machines in the US, but that's not the case in Italy. Ice is pretty hard to come by, I won't lie. Florence and Rome were my personal favorites. Florence because it was just like a beautiful city, and it wasn't even really like a city. It was kind of just like a small, like very cramped town. And Rome because of all the history. Like if you know me, you know how much I love history, especially like anything to do with like Greek or Roman mythology. Obsessed. So seeing like the Roman Forum and like the Colosseum was crazy for me. Like, that was just a really fun experience, and I honestly, like, I really want to go back. The culture there is like a lot like slower. Like, there's a lot less rush, like especially like I'm talking mostly about like in restaurants. Like, my dad was like, oh my gosh, like we have to wait 1,000 years to get the bill. Like, well, they're just not that rushed. Like, they're really not. There's a lot, they're big on wine there. Like, you hear about it, but they're big on wine there. So like, if you are just like letting, like, if you're like going to a wine tasting, like, be prepared for like a lot. It's kind of like people expect you, like, my dad doesn't drink, my mom's not a big drinker, my sister and I obviously, like, we don't drink in the US. So, and I thought that I would love wine. Biggest disappointment of Italy, I hated wine. Turns out that I hate wine. It's not Italy's fault. Like, I just like literally, like, I can't believe I hate wine. Like, what is that? So I'm just really sad about that. Everything you hear about like Roman, like Italian driving, it's 100% true. Every single car ride fearing for my life. Every single one. There was not a single car ride where I was like, okay, like, this is fine. I'm really comfortable. Like, I had to look at the floor of the car because it was terrifying. So most of the roads, like the major like highways, they have lanes. A lot of the roads in like the inner cities, like a lot of the roads in Milan, Siena, Rome, no lines. No lines on the road whatsoever. It's like a free-for-all, and it's so scary. And most of the roads in like the old cities, they're still cobblestone. So riding a bike through it, exceptionally painful, gives you a headache. Riding a car through it is the same thing. And the scooters like do like everything. Like, and where I live, it's illegal for scooters to go like in between lanes and like in between cars and like go up lanes. I don't know if that's illegal in Italy, but if it is, no one cares. So the driving is scary. Like, definitely be prepared for that. It is concerning, in my opinion. I thought Italy was like all about pizza and pasta. It's more about meat. Like, they like their meats there. So if you're a vegetarian, don't recommend Italian cuisine. My dad was complaining about the pizza a lot, but like, pizza's like not really like, they don't really seem to be big on pizza there, from what I can tell. Like, it's more about pasta and meat. And it's also very different. Like, it's a very different style. Like, I think the biggest complaint that my dad had is like the different culture. And I'm like, you can't get mad about going to a foreign country and then like get all upset that the culture is different. Like, obviously it's going to be different. So like, for example, like no one was following like people were like jaywalking constantly, and for whatever reason that just like made my mom like so upset. Like, she was like, if there's not a green man, we're not walking. And like for my dad, like he just wants things to get done. People, there was definitely a lack. Like, granted, I don't like cities, I don't live in a city, so some of this might just be a city thing and not just like an Italian thing, but there is no sense of personal space. My favorite example of this is how, like, when we were getting on the plane to leave, this woman behind us got all mad that my sister like bumped her with her backpack. Complete accident, didn't even notice, but like she was like, excuse me, and my sister was like, what? And nicer than that, and she goes, you just bumped me with your backpack. So my sister apologized and was like, I'll be more aware. And then less than a minute later, the line moves up and she bumps straight into me. No apology or anything. And I was like, okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. But like people like, it's like when you're at the beach and people are like taking up the whole entire boardwalk 24/7. And it's not like the sidewalks are small. That city, like most of the cities were pedestrian cities. So it was just like people were like walking extremely slow, taking their time. And like I don't have a problem with other people taking their time, but it just pains me that people are not aware of their surroundings. Like please just like not like what's a really good example of this? Okay, when we were in the Coliseum, this woman was trying to get out, like I was walking with my tour, and we were just like walking through trying to get to a different side of the Coliseum, and this woman, like I'm obviously trying to maneuver through all the people because it's so crowded all the time because I went in the peak of tourist season. So like she like cut me off, and I was like, okay, that's fine, like I'll just go around her. But like it was like every time I tried to go around her, she would move in front of me, and she was walking so slow, and I was like, please be aware of your surroundings. Like it's not that difficult to do that. Everything people say about the heat, 100% true. It's 1,000 degrees there. Like it's actually, I was blazing hot the whole entire time. There was not a single time where I stepped outside and I was like, oh, it's kind of cool today. If you need to use a GPS to get somewhere, do it before you step out of the AC. While we were like waiting for it to load, we'd be like, okay, like we gotta like wait in the AC before we step outside and start walking somewhere because it's ridiculous how hot it is outside. Mostly what we did is we did all of our like activities in the morning, had lunch, and then went back to our hotel to wait out the afternoon because that's when it's hottest and that's when there's the most people out. And then we go out for dinner and then walk around after that. And I think I already said that actually. But if you're gonna go in summer, 2 things you shouldn't complain about: the number of people and the heat. Because if you're gonna go in the middle of summer, obviously everyone else is also gonna do that, and it's obviously going to be super, super hot. So you just need to prepare yourself for that. I think really like the biggest thing about traveling to a different country, or really like traveling anywhere, is you gotta be aware, you know, like you gotta know like this is not your country. Like you need to do some research on where you're traveling, know what to expect, know the culture, know the customs. Like for example, like the churches, like a lot of them will hand out coverings, but you gotta have your shoulders covered, you gotta have your knees covered, you gotta have your like stomach covered. Like you like can't just walk in there wearing whatever you want. And that was something that I didn't even think about, except for the St. Peter's Basilica. Carry your passport or some sort of valid ID with you everywhere you go, just in case, and don't lose it. Keep it in one of those bags that pickpockets can't get to. Know about the place you're going and know what you're getting yourself into before you go. That's honestly my biggest piece of advice and my biggest takeaway from this. I recommend going to Italy. It was so much fun. Like it was so beautiful there. Like it was absolutely gorgeous and I learned a lot. So I had a great time. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I thank everyone for your support. I'll see y'all next time.